Yep.
Your name?
My name is Anthony Prince, and I'm an attorney for the Salinas Homeless Union. And we're here today to make a statement on behalf of the Homeless Union with regard to the ordinance that was just passed here in Salinas about the towing the RVs and the so-called large-size vehicles. This ordinance is unconstitutional. It is disguised as a health and safety measure, but it is not a health and safety measure. Instead, it is a measure which is directly targeting a class of people that the city of Salinas simply wants to get rid of, as they've been attempting to get rid of for years. Number one, if you look at the ordinance, I encourage everyone to look at the language, the resolution with the whereases, and therefore be it ordained. If you look at the justifications for the ordinance, they cite traffic issues, line of sight problems, discharge of waste materials from these RVs, but there's no evidence. There's no evidence in the whereases. There is no statistics. There's no reports of actual incidents of these things happening. Even if you did have an RV that was, for example, possibly discharging some material, cite that RV, but don't pass a law that criminalizes the fact that people are, by necessity, living in these vehicles. They're there because they can't afford housing. This is a national crisis, a national economic housing crisis that we're faced with here. And instead of responding to it in a legal and humane way, the city of Salinas has continued down the road of criminalizing poor people and homeless people in particular. We want to make the public aware that the city of Salinas is potentially passing up millions of dollars in federal and state assistance for homeless people because they are passing these criminalizing statutes and ordinances. The rules of getting this potential financial assistance are that you cannot enact ordinances just as the one they enacted here. You cannot pass laws that criminalize people based on their economic status of being poor and homeless. But that is exactly what these people back here in City Hall and City Council are doing. So I'll just say that what we're planning to do as the Homeless Union, I'm going to let Wes White, he's our president, Diana Blaylock, and Dredd over here, our officers in the union, let them speak in a moment. But what the union is planning to do, we have a multi-level approach. The first thing is that we're gathering evidence. We're going to monitor the city as it moves to enforce this ordinance, and we're going to document as best we can what the city is doing to enforce this ordinance, because we believe that the ordinance is designed and will actually be enforced in a discriminatory manner. The case law is settled. If a law is enacted with the purpose of disfavoring, purpose of targeting, for a discriminatory purpose, a disfavored class of people, it's unconstitutional. So the second thing we're going to do, in addition to preparing a legal challenge, is that we are prepared to provide assistance to anyone who defies this law. That if you're ticketed, if a sign is posted, and you're given a citation and told move this RV or you'll be arrested, you'll be cited, you'll be charged with a misdemeanor, we're prepared to offer assistance to those people as they defend themselves if they're charged and if they're hauled into court for violating this ordinance. Because if you have a law and you're criminally charged, you can bring up the constitutional issues as a defense. The third thing we're doing is that we want to focus the attention in Salinas on the real health and safety threats. If Steve McShane, who I understand was the originator of this ordinance, is so concerned about health and safety issues in the city of Salinas, why isn't he putting measures in there about the children who are being exposed to pesticide when they go to school? Why is it that we had in 2015 a realty company here in Salinas that was cited by the federal government because it had lead-based paint that was chipping off and endangering children right here in the city of Salinas? When that happened in 2015 and I was here, I called on the city council to have public hearings. I called on the city council to say, hey, if there's 25 of these apartments, maybe there's a lot more. Maybe the city of Salinas needs to look into how much of this housing is substandard and how much of this housing is posing a risk to these children from the lead-based paint. They have done nothing. So if they're going to talk about health and safety concerns in the city of Salinas, let's get real about it. Let's talk about the health and safety issue when you don't provide affordable housing. Let's talk about the health and safety issue when people are not getting the basic necessities. We have poverty in this city. People are going without food and the necessities. That's a risk to public health and safety. So this is a fraud. It's a sham. It's a disguise. Health and safety is just a pretext. The real objective here is to chase the homeless out of town. So with that, we're going to launch a real campaign of civil disobedience and resistance on the legal front and out here in the streets.
Are you thinking of filing a lawsuit against the city?
We are definitely looking at a lawsuit. What we want to do is get our evidence together. We've learned both in federal and state court that we're in a better position to wait until these laws come in and then monitor what happens when they enforce these laws. And we're doing that right now. We got people out here monitoring what the police are going to do with city officials, and we're already seeing that and we are confident we will see that they're not going to enforce this law fairly. They're not going to enforce this law across the books, across the board. This law is targeted at homeless people, not just large vehicles. That's a pretext. All right, where some of these vehicles are parked right now, you can go down there at John Street and Griffin, and you'll see that they're lined up. They're posing no risk to any other traffic. Yes, I have. I was there this morning. They're posing no risk to traffic. They're posing no line of sight safety issues. They're not doing any of these things. So this is just a pretext to try to move people out of here. This is like the poor laws that they had in England back in the day and early in the colonial period of this country to chase the poor people out. But we're here to stand up and say no. The Homeless Union here in Salinas, across the state, we're doing similar organizing. So with that, I'll go ahead and let the leadership of the union have a few words about the situation.
So Wes White, Salinas resident, also running for mayor in Salinas. WES, WHIT. We're here because there are people who are really going to be suffering here in the next couple of days. We're talking about destroying affordable housing. We worry about it, but what are we actually doing about it? We're actually destroying affordable housing. This is what people can't afford. You can't just dictate, well, you don't have enough money, so you're ugly, get out of town. I mean, that's basically what we're doing. This is allowed or encouraged. Yesterday, the community service officers came out, and somebody asked one of them, professionally, this is what they're trained to say back. This is what they were told. This is why they're coming, is expired registration and people leaving in their cars. I actually have a couple of anecdotal statements from other people saying that they've called. They were really happy the ordinance went into effect because there's a commercial vehicle parking in front of their house and they don't like it. Well, they call, the police come out, and they're told, well, it's not a priority. So we are being very selective in the way this is being enforced. Off the top, it is very discriminatory. It's open discrimination against poor people. That's actually domestic terrorism because our state and our county, this is state-sponsored terrorism through the city and the county. It's allowed or encouraged, and we're not actually practicing what we preach. We say we want to help people. We say we feign it, but we don't mean it. And that's what we really need is people who care about people.
Sorry. So this is for whoever wants can answer it. So Anthony, you said it's unconstitutional. So why do we have to wait for the evidence? Can't you just file a lawsuit now and appeal this ordinance?
Yeah, we could do that. Sometimes you have laws that are passed and on their face they're unconstitutional. If you had a law that said if you have a disability you can't be in this park, that would be on its face unconstitutional, right? This law is written in such a way as that it has, I could say that parts of it on their face is unconstitutional, but I think we have a better shot at showing in practice and in the enforcement of it. That's the two ways you can bring a constitutional challenge, whether it's facially unconstitutional or as applied. And so we're watching, and we're going to watch how they apply this law because we think we'll have the better evidence to proceed into state or federal court.
And then what do you mean by civil disobedience? Is that like rallying if a tow truck shows up, or staying in your vehicle and ignoring?
Those are organized resistance to an unfair law is part of what we're all about. We're part of the Poor People's Campaign, as you guys know, and we're about Dr. Martin Luther King. If you had a law that was unjust, that targeted poor people, you resist that law, and sometimes you break that law. But I'll leave it up to the leadership here, and some of which we'll talk about publicly and some of which we won't. But we are definitely encouraging people, stand your ground. Why be chased away to another place, county land or another city, where they're going to just have another ordinance to kick you out? It's time to stand our ground. Now, there are some people who have no choice but to violate the law. They say they have no other place to go. Their RV is in a condition where it can't even be moved. And so the city is so we're talking about those people standing their ground. If they get ticketed, if they get cited, we're going to offer a constitutional defense.
Is she being affected by this?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. You want to what's your name?
My name is Diana Blaylock.
I need to.
My name is Diana Blaylock. And
How do you spell your last name?
Blaylock. And yes, I'm affected being my boyfriend owner RV. And I just recently got it out again because they took it again. And it was me. You know, and the thing about what they're doing, they're targeting the homeless. You know, 25 years ago, they tried doing this. You know, they think that to them, they don't care about the homeless in the city. I'll be honest with you. You know, because they don't. You know, they come out when they do the sweeps. They use vocal words against the women. You know, and even the police. You know, so this is wrong what they're trying to do. Those are our homes. Where are we supposed to go? They're trying to chase us out of Salinas. I'm sorry, but I was raised here in Salinas. Half of these people were born here in Salinas. You know, and it's cool. You know, they tried doing that 25 years ago, and they lost that case. You know, and they think that the city thinks that because we're homeless, that we're stupid, that we're nothing but budget dragons. We're not. They labeled us. You know, I graduated from high school. I went to college, and you know what? I started this to help the homeless. I don't like the way they treat the people here. You know, be more compassionate. You know, people need to be housed first. House them first, and then once the property is safe, then they can move on with their lives. But if they continue doing this, you know, look at all the ordinances they put in. They still ain't even solve the first one or come to a solution. And now they're throwing this one right here. You know, and it's not right. You know, they need to work with us. You know, and give us a permit. Give us a permit so that we could have a permit. You know, to park in certain places. You know, because it's not right what they're trying to do, man. You know, even if there's children in these RVs, that's still consider a home. But you could register your RV as a home. You know, and it's not right. And something really needs to be done about this because there's a lot of people that's going to be affected. Not just me. They think that the homes that got a problem, that problem is going to double its size. You know, and they're going to continue this. You know, and where else are we supposed to go? They start this. Tell you what, we'll use the city as our new space. And we'll come park here and let them see how many people are going to be affected. Yes, I do. No, lo que están haciendo no está bien. Porque todos tenemos a su casa que no podemos pagar la renta. La renta aquí está muy cara. Mira, no nomás yo estoy afectado. Toda esta familia que tiene niños y todo, mija.
Cuéntame, ¿te quitaron un cuarto? ¿Qué pasó?
No me lo quitaron porque era temprano en la mañana y se perdió y se me apagó. Y luego lo dejé un ratito y luego dice la policía, ok, la vamos a dejar. Luego, ¿qué pasa? Viene la otra policía, que era a mirror mate. No, le habló a Tony que me lo llevaron. Y me lo quitaron y batallé para sacarlo, pues lo saqué. Lo tengo para atrás.
We want to put you aside because we need to continue.
So we do have some next steps
Let me just-
for people in RVs. Is basically we're trying to give people a video every encounter. So you know the whole experience. Some people are going to have to die on the sword. That is the real issue. Some people are going to have to die on the sword, and that is how we're going to build a case. Because when you call the cops and you say help, someone's coming to kill me, they say that's nice. Call me back when you're dead. Because that's not sufficient evidence to come out. So you need evidence, and that's kind of seemed to be one of the blockades we ended up with. So we have to watch people die and get their homes and all their personal wealth stolen from them because legalized theft and more video evidence. Like I said, I mean, the CSOs directly said we're looking for expired registration. That's already on the books. We didn't have to make another law banning everyone. And then he said people living in their vehicles, and that's it. Those are, I mean, that's as far as they got as far as, you know. So that's his two top priorities.
Yeah, you know, if I could, the law has already declared that if you're living in a vehicle, that is considered a residence. The law is, Salinas is out of step with the law. Salinas is not looking at the law. For example, they're supposed to, this city has said that it follows the housing first model, which is put forward by the federal government. people are supposed to be housed first, and then you can address some of the various problems they may have, whatever it is, education or some kind of illness. But you can't make people go through a whole process and give the illusion of housing at the end. Let me tell you that there are hundreds of thousands of people in the United States living in their cars and in their RVs. It's an economic and humanitarian crisis. That's the way it has to be looked at. You had these fires up here in California, Northern California, and 6,000 people were made homeless by the fires last year up around Santa Rosa. They're in tents, they're in trailers, and they're homeless. So the number of people, you can go from having a home today and having nothing tomorrow. You can go from having a job where you can pay the rent and pay the house note, and then lose that job and be in the street tomorrow. So this isn't just about the people right now who are living in their car who are homeless. It's about all of society. What kind of city are we going to have? What kind of country are we going to have? So thanks for coming out. We appreciate the media's attention. Any other questions? Okay. All right.
So it's about 20 to 12 on August 24th. I'm at the Salinas City Hall, and apparently a press conference is either already happened or about to happen. Looks like some of the local activists, a handful, are assembling. Here comes video cameraman Wes White. Wes White, what brings you to this particular locale?
I was just inside City Hall over there and trying to get a video of the interview that the mayor was going to have with KSBW, and they opted not to let me in to the interview.
Now, were they letting the public in generally?
No, or the press. It's not protected, is what I was told. So that's well and good. That's called public private, isn't it?
Well, that is the mayor. You know, he has his rights, his privileges, his powers.
Right, and all our money.
Besides, you have a questionable cameraman with you who's probably a very suspicious-looking guy.
Oh, of course.
You have a beard, and this woman looks a little too short for our
Right.
taste.
And we were loud walking out. So, maybe we're getting rude, but it's because people's lives are on the line.
Well, you could always video the door, and then announce you're not being let in, and put that up on YouTube.
Right. I guess I should have done that,
You can-
right?
you can go back
I think I have everything until after they walked away, and then I turned it off. I don't know. Maybe not.
So you're going to do a press conference out here, we hope, soon?
We just kind of already did
She
it.
wants to just get a shot of all of us talking for her
Yeah.
story.
Okay,
How are
so
you?
some
Missed
B-roll.
the thing.
I like your T-shirt. I mean, your dress shirt.
My shirt and my button.
I like the color anyway.
Okay.
You
all
see
right.
this right here?
Yes, I do. What is that?
This here is an ordinance. Okay, this is a paper from the Superior Court where the city tried doing this 25 years ago, and this right here, it states this was taken to the Superior Court.
Now tell me what they were trying to do 25 years ago.
Okay, well, they were trying to do the same thing, ban RVs, and the lawyer who tried this case was an RV owner himself.
His name was?
His name is the lawyer's name. It's in here somewhere. It's right in here, one of my papers here. But
find
anyway,
it.
he's still alive to this day. I got his phone number.
Anthony doesn't have to do any work. He just talks to the lawyer.
Yeah, but no, the reason I'm showing this is because they try to they think that we're illiterate. That we're not going to. I did some research. Because I can't let this go. I have an RV. I got my third one back. They take
Who
it
are we
over.
talking to here?
Diana Blaylock. I'm the voice of the leader and part of the union. I'm on the union too with these guys and the HIM crew. And I've been doing this since it started from the beginning. And people ask me, why are you still here? I go, I'm not going nowhere. Something needs to be resolved here. All these ordinances to throw like this, I think it's wrong. Because
You live in your RV.
Yes, I live in my RV, and here it states in this by 3 judges where they stated right here that they got to put signs up. Okay, there ain't a sign. They got to put signs up. If they don't want us nowhere in Salinas, who are they to tell us where we can live at?
And under a law, you're about to be tossed on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully, something can come out of it, and maybe they'll stop it. Let us have a permit. Give us a permit. Let us purchase a permit where we can park. Help us instead of you causing more problems. Because he thinks he's got problems now. People that with RVs, there's going to be more homeless people out here.
Now, are you with a bunch of other RV people, or are you by yourself pretty much?
No, what were the ones right here on Soledad and over here behind the Salvation Army? Right there, everybody's right there.
Right.
And, they're all around the sites right there, Where else is anybody else going to go park? They're right behind Pepsi Company.
How many RVs is
Well, right now, where we're at,
A couple days ago, there was
Yeah.
well over 20, 25.
yeah, over 25 something, 20, 25. You know, and people don't know where to go. Yesterday there was RVs just cruising around through Chinatown trying to find out where they could park.
So what's the emergency
Panic.
plan?
Well, the emergency plan, well, our emergency plan is, guess what we're going to do? We had a 10 city, we're going to do an RV city. You know, we're going to come out and park.
Well, except you can replace your tents, but it's kind of hard to replace the RV.
Yeah, but you know, it is what it is, you know, because this is not the first time they've taken it away. I thank God, God is good, you know, I got it back, but I had to buy it back, you know, but I got it cheap, you know, because somebody helped us, you know, there's a place out here in Seaside, a car dealership that helps people, the homeless people, get their cars out of towing and RVs. You know, so that people know about it.
So are people willing to risk their RVs in this RV camp? Because that's really what it amounts to. Are there,
Yeah, and they're just
They're
targeting us.
already at risk.
Yeah, you know what it is? I'm gonna tell you what it is. Okay, all this building that they're doing, you know, in Old Town and all them, well, all this has to do with that. You know, they want people to come out here and tourists to come out here and check everything out. So we're in the middle of all that. So what a better way to come up, try to get rid of us? Well, we're not going nowhere because we were raised here, we were born here, you know, and who are you to tell us where we can go?
Right.
You know?
well, I know they had a similar situation in Berkeley. You probably heard about it.
No, not that one.
They drove the Berkeley RV people off the marina about a month and a half ago. And some of them are still fighting back. I'll give you the number of a woman named Amber who's up there. She's living in her RV. But they apparently, in Berkeley, there's a so-called liberal mayor who isn't very liberal, but he likes to pretend he is. And he doesn't want to embarrass himself.
You're welcome, Versa.
You guys,
Hey, it's good
Thank
seeing
you.
again.
Are
Thank you so
finished?
much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for everything,
Good.
girl.
Okay. I don't want to interrupt your press conference.
Obviously.
Yeah, anyway, up in Berkeley
Yeah.
there was, they moved successfully, some of them did, but there was the same concern that, you know, the 72-hour law is true up there, I suppose, as it is down here. You have to move every 72 hours. But Salinas now has this ban,
Yeah.
and
But I don't think it's right, you know, what they're doing, you know. That is so illegal and so right and so inhumane. You know, anything goes wrong, the homeless is the first people they get blamed for everything.
are they, now when you say this is, have they gone after RVs in the last year or two at all?
Only mine since I started doing this.
Well, we actually,
I go only mine.
well, you know, we actually, when we have the litigation here,
Your name?
Anthony Prince, and I'm the union for the California Homeless Union
Yeah.
Statewide Organizing Council, and as you may know, I've
I'm the
been
officer,
representing.
an officer's overseeing.
Right, we have the officers of the Salinas Union here, Wes and Diana and Dredd.
Trying to enlist Santa Cruz.
And yeah, homeless, we're all in this together. And so here in Salinas, what they're doing now, you talk about the RVs. We actually, during the litigation we had, we challenged the ordinance 3 years ago, 3 years ago, we forced the city to make an exception. They were going to tow these RVs. We said those are homes. You can't take them out of their homes. And the city went along with that. So there's precedence. In fact, now that I'm talking about it and articulating, I realize that this is something we might bring to their attention again. Because we pushed back and said, wait a minute, you can't tow those because people are living in them. And they stopped for 6 months. We were able to put everything on hold for 6 months. So there's some precedence for saying, listen,
But then they continue?
if they're homes, if they're functioning as residences for people, they have to be, they fall into the legal protection of a residence, and they can't be just told some RV on the street.
Did they then continue after 6 months?
Well, yeah, I mean, what happened was that, as you know, they repealed the problematic ordinance and replaced it with one that had a little bit more due process, and we never could get the federal judge to issue an injunction. And so the battle for Chinatown was temporarily lost, though I think we're now
Are you
beginning
talking
to...
about an RV ordinance or about a general?
It was a
ordinance on
general
camping?
ordinance around camping and a general ordinance about people...
It affected everything, RVs,
Yeah, right. RVs,
camps, everything.
tents, campsites, everything. So let me, if I could, Robert, about if you're interested in knowing. So basically, what's happened here with this ordinance is that we feel that it is unconstitutional in that it is targeting a segment of the population that they simply don't like. They're using health and safety as a pretext, and therefore it's a disguise for an ordinance which has a discriminatory motive and a discriminatory purpose. And the evidence for that is, I think, fairly significant. For one thing, if you look at the ordinance, look at the resolution that was passed accompanying the ordinance, where it says wherefore all the reasons justifying the ordinance, they talk about, well, these large vehicles pose a traffic problem. You know, they interfere with sight lines. There's no evidence There's no single citation to anyone, any accident, any complaint. There's no photographs. There's no surveying report. Same thing with a discharge of so-called dangerous materials, when people have materials in the RV and they dispose of them in the sewer or whatever. Where's the evidence? There's no evidence. It's simply generalized statements about this could be a problem. So it's lacking evidence. Second thing about it is that it sweeps too broadly. And that's another basis for unconstitutionality. If you pass a law, it's overbroad. Now, if you have an RV that poses a problem, cite that owner for the problem, give them a chance to correct it. But don't ban all RVs. What if I had a home and I had some kind of condition in the home that was problematic or posing some kind of health risk? Are they going to put my house up on jacks and tow it away? I would be cited for that violation. But they would not go down the block and take all the homes out of there as a pretext. And that's essentially what they're doing. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to monitor the city. We're going to see how they actually enforce it so we can begin to compile evidence. We're conducting surveillance on city officials to see what they actually do. We know for a fact they're going to target homeless people and not other large vehicles. And as we begin to amass the evidence, we'll go forward with the legal challenge. And in the meantime, as Diana said, we're advocating civil resistance to this unjust law. That is, why run to the next city or run to the next county when you're going to get chased out of there? The time has come for people to stand their ground. Now, we just talked to a woman, just walked up here while we were having this press conference, and she apparently lives not too far from here in some housing where the landlord, I don't know all the facts, but what she was telling us, and I saw the photographs she has, of plywood on the windows, plywood on the doors, and just simply kicked a bunch of people out. No eviction process, no summons and complaint, no opportunity to defend themselves in court. They're going to become homeless. So homelessness is not because someone has decided, I want to be a bum and I want to drink and shoot drugs and stay on the street. Homelessness is a symptom of an economic crisis which is deepening every day in this country. There's hundreds of thousands of people living in their cars, living in their RVs, living in shelters, tents, and parks, under lean-tos, by river bottoms, by train tracks. It's a national economic crisis. And City of Salinas has got to decide where they're going to stand. Are they going to be part of the problem, or are they going to be part of the solution? So we're going to force the issue, and that's what the Homeless Union, that's what we're determined to do. The other thing we're doing is we're registering voters, including homeless voters. A lot of homeless people don't even realize they have a right to vote. They do. And so we're registering voters. We have some.
Is there anything to vote for?
There's at least one thing to vote for, and he's standing right over there.
Could be.
You're running for the city council, yes?
Yeah, Salinas mayor.
You know, the mayor is on the city.
Yeah, that's what I said. Get rid of gutter.
Let me ask you though, I didn't want to interrupt your flow there. And that was, what's the ordinance number? What's the name of the ordinance we're talking about? When was it passed? When did it go into effect? So forth and so on.
The ordinance goes into effect yesterday, right? Was the
No,
first
let's say
day?
Monday.
This Monday?
This Monday, the community service officers went car to car on Griffin, and I would assume elsewhere.
They said they're going to start citing them next week.
And there was a question asked, you know, what are your priorities? What are you going to do? And how do we avoid it? And they said, well, we're looking for people with expired registrations and people living in the streets.
So that shows right there that it's not an even-handed across-the-board enforcement of an ordinance which is called Ordinance Regulating the Parking of Oversized Vehicles. What they're doing is targeting a subgroup of the population of people who might be driving such vehicles or operating such vehicles, namely homeless people who are living in those vehicles. So right off the bat, they're already indicating to us that they're not going to enforce it in an across-the-board neutral manner. It's going to be enforced in a discriminatory manner against poor people, against homeless people.
Now, activists in Santa Barbara and Venice, Los Angeles, are also fighting similar ordinances. Have you been in touch with them at all?
I have not. I have been in touch with some of them. Of course, I know some of their attorneys, and I know that they were able to get a law that City of Los Angeles had passed, which was way overbroad and more or less made it crime to even live in your car. That was thrown out. Yeah, you're right. The Desert Train decision. That was thrown out, and I'm not sure exactly what the status of that is now. But I want to make a point, because this point needs to be made.
Another point.
There's another point, and then I'll shut up. Because
I
know how you interviewers are.
When you're done.
No, we're interested in mining your mind.
That
Yes,
I think
we're
it's
trying to
very
get them
important to
some medical.
defend people who are living in their RVs and their right to live there. I think it's very important to defend the right of someone who has no other option at this time to live in their car. But I will tell you that we need to go further, because living in your car can be fatal and has been fatal. We've got to go beyond the legal. I challenge the legal community to go beyond where they've been. The legal community has been at the level, okay, so long as you give them some notice, so long as you do this, it's okay to live in your car. You can't ticket them, you can't arrest them. We had a family die, a family of 4 die about 2 months ago in Garden Grove, California, because they were living in their car, homeless, ran the engine all night to stay warm, and they all died of carbon monoxide poisoning, including a 2-month-old baby. So we have to go beyond.
We should ban RVs then, right?
Well, what we need
For
to
their
do,
own good.
right, what we need to do is we need to create housing, and we need to, on an exigent basis, immediately house every man, woman, and child in the United States. We did it once before in American history at the end of World War II. It was a massive housing program. You know that the federal government during the Depression set up federally sanctioned land where you could camp unmolested. Times have changed. Now, instead of seeing homelessness as a symptom of an economic crisis, now we're criminalizing the victims of that
When did those
economic
camps
crisis.
close?
They closed after the economy began to recover through World War II. World War II.
Are you based on historical knowledge, research, or you just sort of...
No. My dad was World War II veteran. He was in the 10th Mountain Division. We grew up learning a lot about it. He was also a victim of the
Did you
Depression.
live in a camp?
He did for a time. He lived in what they call a hobo jungle. And at that
Shocking.
time,
So that's the reason. You're trying to fulfill the mission of your dad.
in part.
You ain't got a
All right,
pen?
that's it.
Good
Thank
for
you.
you.
Okay, all
I need a
right. Well,
picture
thanks
real
for
quick.
coming out,
I started
Robert,
kicking
and
around.
you're part of the fight, as you know. And I like your shirt too.
So you've made this appeal before, Anthony.
Yeah.
About to attorneys, to step up and stop just a minor that end of the road or
Band-aid.
limited
Right.
legal changes, legal challenges. But what's the impact been in the past of your appeals? Have you had any success?
Well, we're starting to have some success. I will tell you, I can share with you that we were involved, as you know, in a national campaign. It's still ongoing, the Poor People's Campaign, National Call for Moral Revival, under Dr. William Barber, Reverend Barber from North Carolina, Reverend Liz Harris from New York. And we had 6 weeks of civil disobedience in Sacramento and in 40 other state capitals. In that process, we pulled together a number of attorneys across the country, and we're now in the process of having those discussions. How do we form a new American jurisprudence? How do we as lawyers not simply come in and try to put a legal band-aid, but be part of the architecture of something new and something different, just like the abolitionist lawyers did at the time.
You formed a discussion group. Any actual lawsuits or defense in any of those cities come out? Any specific?
That's the approach we're taking in Marysville, where we have litigation underway. That's the approach that we're going to take around some of these
What's the
cases.
update from Marysville? Describe what's going on.
Most recently, as you know, I represent Brian Lee Brown. He was known as the mayor of the homeless encampment on the Yuba River for 9 years. He lived there with about almost 200 other people.
How about Mayor?
Pardon me?
Bridget, Raylin.
Ray Lynn Butcher was the co-mayor, the two of them, Ray Lynn and Brian. And I represent Brian in an individual lawsuit. We're getting ready to file a class action lawsuit on behalf of all the people that were evicted from that homeless camp. So that's the status of it.
Getting ready means what's the time frame?
Well, we have the deadline to file it is October 16th, so we're working on it. We're going to file it very close to the 2-year statute of limitations. But we'll get it filed.
Working on it alone of all the good
No, we've
attorneys
got
from
some
the Poor
other,
People's
we've got some other,
Campaign.
we've got some other lawyers
They
on
have
board with
jumped
it.
in?
Yep, we got other lawyers
Or
on board
waded
with
in, or
it.
dipped their toes in?
More than dipping their toes, they're getting into it full blown as co-counsel. So I don't want to get too much into details. When we actually file the claim, you'll see it, you'll hear all
Any
about it.
connection with the Caltrans lawsuit statewide?
I know about the Caltrans lawsuits. I haven't had a chance to get with the attorneys that are prosecuting those lawsuits.
OSHA Newman is one.
But I know OSHA, of course, from Berkeley. What we need and what I'm trying to pull together is a real gathering of the attorneys who have experience in this area and pose the questions: how do we go further? How do we address the fact that everything we've done up to this point has not succeeded in actually getting housing provided? How do we move forward to the next step? How do we challenge this systemically and not just on an individual case-by-case basis? I don't know how to do it, but I know that the first step is to gather people together who want to figure out how to do it. So that's one of the
So when
things
is your
we're
next
doing.
meeting coming up? Or is there a next meeting?
There's a next meeting. I'll talk to you about it offline.
We'll talk about that in secret.
All right.
We've been talking with
Anthony Prince. Yeah, I don't have a car. I got to get new cars. I have old cars. I do have cars that my daughter put enough.
You are a card. We know that.
Yeah.
There was a guy that just rode away right now. I guess there was an incident where the police shot him, and something I wanted to hear more about it, but he ran away.
Here in Salinas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a health and safety issue the city council could look at instead of trying to chase people out of these ramshackle RVs they're living in.
Anything you want to
Public
add?
health and safety.
No, it's domestic terrorism right here. I mean, we got a state sponsored by city and county encouraged
Well,
or
there's your
allowed.
police department right over there. Just file a complaint.
Yeah.
Oh, aren't they in charge of those complaints? You know how the police community
They're in
advisory
charge of
committees
it.
are
Well,
going right now?
The issue here is Robert, is that this ordinance to ban so-called oversized vehicles ostensibly was passed for public health and safety reasons. And one of the councilmen, Steve McShane, was the big force behind it.
What was the vote?
It was unanimous.
3-4.
Oh, was it? It was a close
Yeah,
vote.
it was 4-3. They
Okay.
in favor of passing the ordinance.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually closer than I thought it was. But the point is this. The point is health and safety concerns. How about the fact that there's school children here in Salinas Valley who are being exposed to pesticide on a regular basis? How about the fact that about 2 years ago, there was a leading real estate company here who was nailed by the federal Environmental Protection Agency because they had lead-based paint peeling off the walls in apartments. At that time, I approached the city council. I said, when is the city council going to look into this? Because if you have a handful of apartments, you may have a lot more.
But there are major funders. Why we don't? Come on.
Right. We were being facetious, but that is true. That is where their interests lie. We want to see on which side of it is the Salinas City Council. So we're not giving up, and we're hanging in there, and it's a step-by-step process. But with each step, we increase the number of people involved in this, and we increase the number of people who see my struggle is your struggle is my struggle.
Now, I know in the
Exactly.
past you've successfully
Smooth.
name.
Fresse, it rhymes with essay.
There you go.
Fresse.
And nobody,
And your first name is
Adele.
Adele. How long you been police chief, Adele?
Here, this is my second year. So,
right? And this is Robert Norris from Santa
How do you
Cruz.
do?
hi Robert. Let's see, that would be a year and 9 months. Who's counting?
And is the police department going to preside over the RV enforcement, or are they a separate entity?
I wouldn't say preside, but yes, we will enforce whatever ordinances the city has
On complaint
passed
or
in
independently?
this particular instance. I think we're speaking about the oversized vehicle
On
ordinance.
complaint or independently? In other words, will you be going out?
Proactively?
Exactly.
Yes, we will, but there's a caveat to
Good,
that.
good.
We have such a long line that are in the queue for us to respond to. There's no guarantee that we'll get to the proactive part.
So how many complaints have you had in the last, few months about this?
We have, I have to give you the big bundle,
Okay.
and the big bundle is 3,200.
Since
3,200 AVs, okay? So abandoned vehicles. That doesn't mean that they're all RVs. Probably a very small portion of those are RVs. However, we can query that and see exactly how many are considered oversized vehicles.
now by abandoned vehicles, so you're not going to go after vehicles that aren't abandoned but that are oversized RVs?
No, that's not true. You gave me a premise and a conclusion. That's
Just a question.
not congruent. So, no. What's your question?
Well, you mentioned I asked you about abandoned, or about how many complaints you've had about RVs that are likely to be towed. You said, well, we had a lot of them about abandoned vehicles. I said, well, then what's the subset here? If a person has an RV but it's not an abandoned vehicle, you're nonetheless going to go after it because it's in violation of the law and you're doing a preemptive kind of activity, right?
Right. So are you aware that we've been putting warnings out now for over a month?
Directing people to go to what safe zone?
Directing nothing. Directing nothing other
Get out of town kind of
than
thing?
the law. Just citing what ordinance is going into effect So, no, our job isn't to talk philosophically about one's situation. So we're strictly looking at the ordinance, and if a vehicle is in violation, we don't go and try to connect with people and ask them, are you living here? Are you vacationing here? Do you have 10 houses, but you happen to have a cousin, borrowing your, we don't get into what the circumstances are unless that situation presents itself.
Well, the reason I ask is because police departments in some cities, for example, I'm thinking more of Los Angeles, but also now in Santa Cruz, where I come from, there's a concern that you can't enforce an ordinance when there's no place for people to go if you're essentially telling them it involves an essential human function like sleeping.
No, I understand.
So if you're going to be telling people that they have to go but not giving them anywhere to go, you're in essence saying leave the jurisdiction or else get a citation, right?
Apparently that's how you feel.
Well, I'm just wondering what the police department's position is.
Right. Our position is just to enforce the laws that have been presented to the council and passed by approval by vote.
So if a person declines to leave, they'll get a citation or their van will be towed?
Repeat that?
If a person confronted with an officer who says, look, this is the law, we gave you a warning last week, and they're still there, and they say, well, we got no place to go, so we're going to sit here, we might as well deal with the situation here, we haven't got any gas at the moment. The possible outcome will be, here's the citation, or we're going to tow your vehicle. Is that true?
Those are possible outcomes. Each of them is a possible outcome. So, anyhow, I came here to talk to Wes.
Go ahead.
And you kind of hijacked my conversation.
may have
Exactly. Okay, let me have a turn. With the community meeting out at Creek Bridge, you mentioned you're a very heartfelt statement of homelessness is not a crime, and how much compassion you had.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just, how do you reconcile that though with just following orders? And that's how come I guess I relented to that.
Thank you so you're there with me. You understand. It is. So as far as police go, the thing is our opinion really doesn't count. And that is that's what complicates the job of being a leader in this uniform, is we all have our personal feelings. But when we get up in front of the public and we raise our hand and we swear to take an oath, it means that we swear to abide by the vote of the people. It doesn't have anything to do with our own personal convictions. So some people decide that's not good with them. They go and do other things. They go into a different career, and I respect that. But for us, it's not about what we feel. And it is hard to reconcile.
Well, and I guess for me, it feels like it's actually violating people's constitutional rights. Pursuit of happiness, affordable housing. This is the county seat, after all.
This is a tough situation. I completely agree.
So enforcing unjust laws.
I have a cousin down in Santa Maria who has been homeless for years. I'm in regular contact with him. I hope he doesn't come here. Because I don't, it's,
First complaint and you'd respond, and how is it a high priority over burglaries, stabbings, whatever, gunpoint, something?
Crimes against people will always be the highest priority, but I think where you're going with this is why so much attention, and admittedly, I'll share with you, one of the greatest or largest volume of complaints I receive is on the subject of oversized vehicles recently. Much less to do with our violent crime.
Could I,
So it almost sounds like we really don't have a problem, but we need to make a problem to keep ourselves busy.
I think when people feel strongly about something, they speak up. And if it doesn't affect them as an individual, they often don't take notice.
As trying to do community policing, do you think maybe we should try to work with people more rather than just simply reject them?
Working with people is the essence of community policing.
It seemed like an awful lot of the problem was, they're litter addicts, and we hate the litter, and it's going into, and pee and poo. We don't open bathrooms, so we don't actually try to see a bigger perspective on purpose, it seems sometimes. But if we wanted to work with people who had those issues, like the leaky vehicles and the health and safety rates, those things are already on the laws. You know, like we didn't need a blanket ordinance for that. So it almost comes down to, and I had a couple of people who actually told me that they called and they were so happy the ordinance passed because there were people parking in front of their house, like construction vehicles and, you know, like the oversized vehicles. They don't meet. They're over 7 feet and they're blocking their driveway, and they're like, they park here and they live in that apartment complex and park in front of my house. I hate it. So they get them to come out and they go, yeah, that's not a priority. That's violating the law, but it's not a priority.
There are two extreme ends of the spectrum,
Right,
with
but
people on both sides and all the way in between.
Okay. You wouldn't consider that selective enforcement?
No, because we call, think about it, Wes, we get calls all day long, calls of all different kinds of nature of calls, right? All day long, and we respond. Constantly, all day long, we have pages of calls, and we go from the top and we start working our way down. So that's not selective.
You got a question?
No, I didn't want to hijack any conversations.
Why not? Go ahead.
No, I don't do that. I just introduce
Okay,
myself.
so who
I'm
are
Anthony
you,
Prince.
sir?
I'm the attorney. I'm Wes's attorney, and I'm
Anthony.
an attorney for the Homeless Union. And I've
Okay.
been involved
Where are
in
you out
litigation.
of?
I live in the East Bay.
Live
Actually.
in East Bay?
That's correct.
Have you lived there your whole life?
No. Just in the last 22 years.
Are you not a California native?
No, I am a California native.
I'm from the East Bay as well.
Oh yeah, what part?
Yeah. Oakland, and then I've lived in Hayward. I've lived in
Okay.
San Lorenzo. I've lived in San Leandro.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just drove through some of those little towns on the way down here. So.
With the police department in those different areas, or?
I'm sorry.
Yes, if you would.
Oh no, I grew up there. I'm born and raised
And how long have you been an officer here?
here in this county. Almost 5 years.
Before that?
South Texas, Corpus Christi.
Before that?
I got my 832 PC in Alameda, California in 1984.
And tell us, what is an 832 PC?
That's your arrest and penal code. Is the penal code that says that you have to have this basic course to get you into law enforcement.
So were you originally in Alameda law enforcement?
No, I wasn't really. I was in a reserve program through the college, through Chabot. I'm sure you've heard of Chabot.
Not a bit.
Really?
But I mean, I'm ignorant of many things.
Chabot is like
Great college, great planetarium.
where Tom Hanks went to community college there. Great planetarium, that's right.
Or it's where you went, as we may be remembered later.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that is exactly where I went my first couple
Nice
of
meeting you,
years.
Chief.
Anything that we can do right now
So
that doesn't
If we get back
get
to
me
them.
fired.
Right. I guess I'm curious. I would like to be able to video the events that happen and unfold. So Griffin Street, are you planning like a 7 o'clock, blitz on a lot of places? I'd like to be able to follow you.
Okay, so Griffin, I think, is up next week. I don't have a schedule because I have a sergeant, Kendall Gray,
Okay, would it be
who
possible
reports to a commander who reports to an assistant chief who
Right,
reports to me. So
Okay.
what I recall in our last conversation is that that's next week, Griffin Street.
And where
But
are you going
everybody on
Monday?
Griffin knows. Everybody on Griffin knows.
Right. Well, and I know even for PCAC, it's hard for them to get any kind of information either, or responses to emails. So I would like to, if possible, be able to follow your route. Is that something you can give me an email?
As long as you don't get in the middle of, things.
No, I honestly, I don't even want to say a word. I just want to listen.
Yeah, well, it's all public, that public street, so you can zoom right in.
Well, it's all about following you, because you got to be there at the same time as well.
Yeah, so I don't know what the plan is, that because he's a highly capable supervisor, Kendall Gray. He probably has everything mapped out. I don't micromanage him and ask him, okay, and then step 3, I don't.
Or connect me with him, and then I guess suggest or allow or give him the
I get a hold of
ability,
you?
liberty, if he so chooses, desires to let me tag along?
Yeah, we can do that.
Because I would like to document all of these. What kind of contingency are you bringing? Like, because I'm assuming tow truck and landscaping is going to come, as well as police officers.
Okay, so now you're getting public works and
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the main contingency that always goes to every cleanup, plus tow trucks, is what I would imagine, right?
yes.
Okay. I mean, enough to, if you had like Bridge and Menke over there, most of those people left, but there was about 25 of them, and if all of them would have stayed, how much of a dent could you have really made in a day?
If they are, well,
just at one location, if there was 25 vehicles there, would you be able to get 25, or at least a pattern of 25 tow trucks coming to get all vehicles within the same day?
here forward perhaps, but before today,
Right.
no.
Right.
I don't think so.
Okay, because I'm thinking production stream of 3 cars an hour, 5 cars an hour.
Exactly. Yeah, so I don't even know how many resources in terms of CSOs and police officers Kendall has planned, but we only have so many officers and CSOs available in a given day, and we're not calling people in on overtime. We're not bringing them in on their day off or anything like that.
And I guess I may as well let you know. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like this is domestic terrorism. I feel like we're destroying affordable housing. I feel like we're actually, because I've seen video where the landscapers are laughing at them, while they're cleaning up everything they got, because it's a joke to them. Hey, they're getting paid, and these people, we're paying for it through human suffering. And that's, I think people should have more of a heart connected to their mind to say, what, this is unjust. And in fact, I've gotten the city actually repent from their their destruction a couple of times from that, because they know, and they already know. And then once it was on video, they had to back away because they already got themselves, saying it on camera. So they're okay. You know what? I better back off from this.
Well, this is hard. Wes, this is so hard. It's hard for all of us.
But you're all getting paid and going home, and they're left outside. So how is that? I mean, it's not really that hard.
Yeah, going home doesn't mean it stays behind.
We should be more active in fighting for justice, our patriotic principles, of sticking up for everybody, because it's just wrong that bullies are picking on people. And right now we're looking at the city and the county deciding, well, it's cheaper to get rid of them than to actually interact with them. And besides that, they're ugly, they're nasty, they're dirty, they're litter bugs, they're drug addicts, they're mental illness. Anything we want to say to put them in a box, a glass ceiling that they'll never break out of, and then well, go get housing, go get in a line. 10 years later, maybe you'll become an applicant. And it's destroying what should be the American dream.
We got to get involved. Has anybody been towed in the last week on this?
I don't know.
Who would know this?
Right.
Well, we have we have a database.
How does
But
Wes
I
access
don't-
that?
I'm the police chief here. I'm not playing in a database all the time.
So if you were to advise him how to access the database, what would you suggest you do?
Just Sergeant Gray can help
Yeah,
you.
if you connect with them, that'd be great.
We haven't done a whole lot of towing in the past week.
Right. Well, you're waiting for it to build up. I mean, part of it is see how bad it got. I mean, just like downtown.
Okay, that's not what we're doing. So we want to make sure we're lawful in what we do, and so we promised a grace period. We promised, plenty of communication so that people would be forewarned that this was happening. That way, it's best that we don't have to tow, right?
Well,
it's best
it'd
that
be
we
even better to connect people with services like the housing management services.
Lawmaker, Wes. I can't get involved.
But
in
here
that.
we are talking about community policing, but saying, well, I can't do it because my hands are tied.
But we will do everything we can. We can lawfully and ethically, but I have to respect, the rules of the city council.
Can you endorse candidates for mayor and city council?
No.
As a private citizen?
No, I cannot. I'm not a private citizen.
Under a pseudonym?
So the First Amendment doesn't always apply to me. I give a lot of that up. Well, even out, I cannot endorse people. The sheriff asked me I said, no, I won't. I won't endorse you, and I won't endorse your.
So whereas the sheriff can endorse and so forth, but you can't.
Yeah, they're politicians.
Because they're elected. You're not elected.
So bodies like political action committees of police entities and police unions can endorse, but individual officers, especially the police chief, cannot.
What kind of review process have you got? And without, just very briefly, because I know this is a little off topic, but still, it might come up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good luck to you. I do. Let me see if I have it with me. Oh, I'm sorry. I have an electronic card that I can email you.
All right.
I'm trying to go paperless.
Let me make it a short question. Is there a review board or an auditor here?
Give me 1 second.
No. Okay. That was my question.
Can I get your email?
Yeah, it's Prince Law Office.
But yesterday, it was recorded with one of the community service officers. What kind of violations are you looking for? And he came up with 2 answers: expired registrations and people living on the streets. Is that what was in the people living in the streets? I think is word for word, and I have it on video. And I guess I was just wondering, was that part of the training of the morning that morning? Of like, what are the priorities? Or I mean, before they went out, they were told that we're going to start towing people on Monday, and that's what you tell people. You give them a page and you say we're going to start towing on Monday, and
No, but I'd have to check with the sergeant to see who was present, if they had a briefing, and what was discussed, and how it was communicated and evidently received.
Right, and that's kind of one of those annotations, because Hobson says that over 75% of people have a very hateful attitude because they think just like he does.
For us, I can tell you I have a large number of officers who cannot stand doing that type of enforcement because they do have personal conflicts doing it.
Right, but you still go home and still,
Well, yeah, I mean,
it is hard. It's hard to sacrifice. It is definitely hard to sacrifice.
Some people decide,
Right.
yeah, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, and that's hard to walk away from because you got financial security and kids in college, those kind of things. And when it comes down to it, we're more interested in fending for ourselves than being our noble selves of what we purport to be.
I think Darwin talked about that.
Has that actually happened as an officer resigned because they decided, I've had enough of this? I mean, have you heard personally that I don't want to involve myself in this kind of homeless or anti-homeless enforcement?
I think it's pretty rare, but yes.
It's happened in this department.
I can't tell you a lot about what's happened in this department because
while you've been here, but during the last 2 years.
One thing I have found is people who leave police departments often don't fully disclose why they leave. And the reason is because in the back of their mind they're going, but I might go back someday.
So you haven't heard this though, as a specific, I'm leaving.
Exactly.
You haven't heard, I'm leaving because I can't stand this anymore. That hasn't come up in the last 2 years. It sounds like you'd remember it if you had.
No, but I'm sieving through a conversation that I'm thinking of, and I just know that some officers just they don't even want to write tickets because they know how much it costs and they know how hard it is to survive.
About some of the homeless types.
And I mean, talking traffic citations, even traffic citations.
Right.
That's where discretion is so valuable, because you know what? How egregious is that violation?
Well, and that is in your
Yes.
power of doing, and that's kind of, I guess, where I go back to, like the community policing style. And yeah, it's on the books, but it's negatively affecting an awful lot of people's lives, especially when this is a county seat.
You're right, and that's smart, astute of you. You're pointing out that discretion is valuable, and so, like for a traffic citation, for example, nobody really notices when an officer says, you know what, just you got to stop at that red light. We've got a lot of pedestrian fatalities, and yeah, so just be careful. But if we don't do other enforcement and we use discretion, within hours we're going to, the phone starts ringing and it's the cycle continues. Get back out there. the RV, for example, is still there. It's still there. Send an officer. You need to enforce the law. You know, I think the importance is all of these ordinances, laws, everything that can be enforced needs to be enforced or equally applied.
Right.
Because once we start using discretion,
Okay.
which is
Sure, or
it
selective
doesn't
enforcement, either way.
harm anyone. I shouldn't say that. Not much harm can be done when an officer sits on the side of the road, talks to a driver, and some might call it a lecture, but it might be something heartfelt, like, look,
Right.
my
You
next door
might reach
neighbor had a child run over doing exactly what you did. And then they have a conversation. It's apparent the person made a mistake and is going to make sure to be careful. No harm, no foul. But when we start picking and choosing how we enforce oversized vehicles, for example, because this is the hot topic we're all
Right.
talking about, right?
Yes.
Then people are harmed. So equal application is the way to go.
And you folks are on the front line, so you see this on a daily basis, and there are directions and steps that could be, if the lawmakers so desired or allowed the opportunity. And that kind of suggestion is what I would hope that you would bring to whatever department head meetings there are about this issue, because people could be connected with services. At least get in line, at least collect data, and then respect them more. And maybe have a small set of micromanaging rules where we're like, the trash is mitigated and things like that. But we're hampering people's ability to survive. Because these are amenities. I mean, we're a tool-based society. We're a paper society. We need access to resources, and pushing them outside of city limits, it's not going to help any of that. And everybody's been driven from the peninsula as well.
Well, if you're going back to the Bay Area, drive safely. It's Friday.
I will.
Lots of traffic on Friday. You know that.
So she's giving me a.
I always
There you go, right now.
avoid- I
Instead of giving me a
avoid
ticket, she's
Fridays.
giving me the lecture. I haven't even done anything wrong.
I avoid Fridays, but
I know how it is.
And we've been listening to, again, your name is.
yeah, Adele Fresse rhymes with essay.
Thank you.
All right, take care, you guys.